Hi, my name is Kevin. I'm going to share my journey with stress, anxiety, and depression with you over the next few minutes and the next few videos. I'm going to share my screen to start. My presentation is called Butterflies in My Tummy. And we often feel butterflies in our tummy when we're excited about something. Could be the first day of school, could be just before a presentation. It could be when you're moving houses, you get the butterflies upset feeling in your tummy. It could be when you're having a disagreement with a family or friend, or family member or friend. So I got them butterflies in my tummy last night just thinking about doing this presentation for you, and I had them again this morning. And even though I want to do this, I'm excited to do this, I still sometimes get them. One of the strategies that I learned to help with butterflies in my tummy is learning about how to breathe deeply. So we're going to do a couple of breaths here. We're going to breathe in as it expands and then breathe out. In through your nose, in, and then out through your mouth. In through your nose and out your mouth. In your nose and out your mouth. We'll do one more. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Now, breathing really helps with those butterflies in your tummy. I feel already that I'm a little bit calmer now. So I'm going to take you back to 2001 when these butterflies got so bad that they started to affect how I slept. So my brain would be racing and wake me up at 4:30 in the morning, and I couldn't get back to sleep. And this lasted for weeks and then months. And I didn't tell anyone about it. Another thing that started happening was I couldn't remember people's names. I couldn't remember students' names. And as a teacher, that's not a very good thing to have. And I thought at the time, I was 39 years old, I thought, well, I'm just getting older. That's part of getting older. You lose your memory. And that's wrong. My memory's better now, 19 years later, than it was back then. And it went on for months. And when you can't turn off your brain and you just can't remember things, that's something that doctors talk about as anxiety. And I'll go into that a little bit more. And it basically means you're going too fast, and it's kind of like driving a car with one foot on the gas and one on the brake. And if you drive your car that fast, too long, eventually you burn out your car. And eventually my body and brain burned out to the point where I was exhausted. And on the weekends, I felt like doing nothing. And so that's called being burnt out. So 1 in 5 people in Canada right now has a mental illness of depression, anxiety, or panic attacks, or something similar. And as I started to look at the stats and I realized, well, I'm one of those 1 in 5, I found out that my brain is different from many people. I'm not 1 in 5. So if there's 5 of us in the room right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm that fifth. And if there are 10 people in the room, there'd be 2, and so on with more people in the room. So my brain's different than other people as that 1 in 5. It's a blessing, but it's also a curse because my brain, it helped me graduate university. But it also made me feel like I was never good enough. I had this feeling ever since I was a teenager that just inside that I was never good enough. And I share this picture of me graduating university, a couple reasons. One, I can grow hair. And sense of humor is important to have when we're talking about the brain and mental illness because it's a scary subject for some people. But I also showed this because I have a medal around my neck. And I don't show that to brag or be arrogant, but we often think about people that have depression, anxiety as being homeless people or unemployed people on the street. And the doctor says what I have is high functioning anxiety and high functioning depression, which means, yeah, I have them, but I was able to get through work all the time and get my job done and all the volunteer stuff I was doing. But it was exhausting me. And on the weekends, I spent a lot of it sleeping. So this medal, the Alumni Gold Medal, is given to the top person in math at the University of Waterloo, the top person in computer science, the top person in science, the top person in psychology. I got it as the top person in human kinetics and leisure studies, or kinesiology. And so I have a very smart brain, but I also have a brain that really worries. So my brain, it helped me become a high school teacher, but it always made me feel like I lived under a black cloud, kind of like the black cloud that Eeyore lives under. And that's what my brain's been like forever. It helped me become a high school vice principal, but again, it woke me up at 4:30 in the morning, every morning, Monday to Friday. This is a picture of me a couple of years ago when I was at Cameron Heights as vice principal. Grew grew my hair to see what I have, and I'll bet you that beard is a lot more shades of gray than it is right now. My brain, it helped me become the quarterback of the football team in high school, but it made me feel like I didn't deserve to be loved. And that was something I've lived with for a long time, that I just didn't deserve to be loved. This is me right after high school, helping the quarterbacks and receivers up at Olympia Sports Camp in Huntsville, where I coach. Again, you grow lots of hair, enjoy your hair while you can grow it. So my brain, it helped me be a good father, but at times it made me not want to live. And years ago, we were afraid of talking about people that didn't want to live. And today we're pretty comfortable talking about the word suicide, knowing that just talking about it isn't going to push someone over the edge. So this is a picture of me when my children were younger. So this fella's now 25, he's 28, and she's 30 and has 2 children. But this guy here, I was living with not wanting to live off and on in my brain, even though I was blessed with a wonderful family. And it just didn't make sense. So eventually, I went to see my doctor. I said, Doc, I need a pill to help me stay asleep. I keep waking up at 4:30 in the morning. I can't remember things. I can't get back to sleep, and I'm exhausted by lunch. And he said, it sounds like you have anxiety or depression. And I said, I'm not sad. I thought depression was something to do with sadness. I said, I just need to stay asleep. And the doctor said, you don't have to be sad. Depression is your brain chemicals to get depressed or stuck. And he suggested I go see a therapist or a counselor to get unstuck. And I'll tell you, 19 years ago, going to see a counselor, and particularly as a man, wasn't something that I wanted to do. But I had to do something to get back to sleep in the mornings so I'd be able to function all day. So one of the things I learned was that depression isn't sadness. And today, a lot of people will say, when they're having a bad day, they'll say, I'm so depressed, or they're having a fight with someone that say they're so depressed. And really, we shouldn't say we're depressed unless we're using the doctor's term depression. If you're feeling tired or frustrated or sad, say you're frustrated, sad, or tired. But let's say depression as a doctor's term. I think that's really important as we move forward. So you're sad, but I'm not a sad person, yet I have depression. So I went to see a psychologist. His name was Dr. Dave, and psychologists help us get unstuck. When our brains get all tangled up in how they're thinking, they can kind of get them untangled for us. So I went to see Dr. Dave, and he said, well, what is it you're thinking about when you wake up at 4:30 in the morning? I said, well, there's a mortgage payment, and there were 2 car payments, and there were 3 kids all doing competitive sports and doing music. And I was coaching after school, and I was coaching a team after supper, and I was also involved in the union at the school board. And he said, slow down, man. He said, you're talking really fast. Take a deep breath. There's that deep breath again. He said, okay, let's do one thing at a time. He said, you have a house. Did you want a house? Yes, I have a house. I have a nice house, nicer than I expected because I bought it way before the mortgages went up. He said, you have 2 cars. Do you want 2 cars? Yeah, I need 2 cars, one for me, and I was married at the time, and one for Valerie. He said, you have 3 kids. Did you want 3 kids? Yeah, I wanted 3 kids. And did you want to be a teacher? Yeah. And did you want to coach? Yeah. And what I realized was all the things that I was worrying about were actually my blessings. Somewhere online, you learn about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's a pyramid that shows all the things we need in life to survive as humans. And the bottom level are the first things we need. They're the physiological needs, things like food, water, and shelter. And I have all 3 of those. The next thing after that is people that care for you, and I have that too. So after talking to Dr. Dave, I helped him realize that I was looking at the cup as half empty, and the brain gets stuck in these cycle of worries. And he helped me realize that, you know what? Those are actually your blessings you're worrying about, and I can see the cup as half full. And what we focus on grows. So if you focus on your worries all the time, they get bigger. But if you focus on your blessings, they get bigger. And so that night, I slept like a baby. It was amazing. I slept till the alarm went off in the morning. There's the easy button. Click. That was easy. Another thing Dr. Dave suggested was keeping a pen and paper beside your bed in case you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about silly things that you can't turn off. So for me, it would be, I'm teaching a math lesson tomorrow, and I've taught that lesson for the last 4 years, but for some reason I can't turn it off. And my brain will just keeps going over and over again. But write down on a piece of paper, teach the math lesson, or you're good at teaching a math lesson, and then you're able to go back to sleep. So it's a practice that helps. And then you can go back to bed and sleep like that baby. See, I did have lots of hair back then. So humor is important. Worrying won't stop the bad stuff from happening. It just stops you from enjoying the good. And so we need to learn how to turn off our brains, if you're with that 1 in 5 that kind of gets stuck like I do. or did. So over time, I realized that I've got a very sensitive brain, and it's something that I didn't want to share when I was a young man. I didn't want other boys to know or girls to know that I had this brain that thought deeply. But this thing is sensitivity. Today, we actually call it empathy. And empathy is the capacity to feel other people's feelings. Sympathy is when you feel sorry for someone else. Something goes wrong. But empathy is you actually feel their pain. And I've had that all my life, as long as I can remember, that I can feel other people's pain. And that's a lot of feelings to live with. And so today I realize that I'm a person that has empathy, a lot of empathy, and maybe that's my superpower. And so this is my emoji with my superpower as the empathy man. And I think it's really important that we get comfortable as both boys and girls, but particularly young men. We have to break the stereotype that it's not manly to talk about our feelings and emotions. It's actually very manly and it's very important to do. So another way to work on your breathing, and I'm going to demonstrate it for you, I call it give me five, or you can call it take five. And I put my left hand out and my right index finger here, and I'll inhale through my nose and think about a blessing. So think about my daughter. Out your mouth. And you pause. In through your nose, my oldest son. And you pause. In your nose, my younger son. Out your mouth. It could be something as simple as clean water. In your nose, blessing, clean water, out your mouth. In your nose, right now the sun's shining outside, it looks beautiful. It doesn't really matter what five things you do, but research shows if you practice this technique of the breathing and counting your blessings, practice it in the morning and at lunch and at the end of the day, you can decrease your stress and anxiety. In the workplace, it increases productivity. People are less absent and the general mood and production goes up. So it's a really good thing to practice. So I'm going to suggest you practice it once on your own now. I'll do the hand movements, but you think of your positive things. So we're going to inhale through our nose. Think about a blessing. Out your mouth. In your nose, a blessing. Out your mouth. In your nose, a blessing. Out your mouth. Two more. In your nose, something you're grateful for. Out your mouth. In your nose, blessing. Out your mouth. You can feel your whole body change when you do that on a regular basis. So whether you give me five or you take five, practice that on a regular basis if you're struggling. And today, a lot of us are struggling with this unknown that we're going through. So although I'm diagnosed with three mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, and panic attacks, I say I don't have a mental illness because I don't even have a mental. I have a brain. And a long time ago, someone started calling our brain and our brain our mind, and then our mind turned to mental. And mental has a stigma attached to it. People say things like you're so mental, meaning there's something wrong with you. And so today, just like I talk about my ankle, if I sprain my ankle, I talk about my ankle, I don't talk about something else. Today I talk about my brain. And so I think that can really help as well with proper language. And from this point on, I won't talk about mental, I'll talk about our brain and how we can understand how our brain gets stuck in these loops of worry and how we can get unstuck. But better yet, how not to get stuck at all in the first place. So our brains have chemicals going through them. So a neuron that runs through our brain is like this, it has an open end and a closed end. So they're all connected like this. And a whole bunch of them connect together. And if you practice things enough, eventually they get wired into your brain. Like 9 times 8 could get wired in as 72 if you keep practicing it. And I before E except after C, and your mom's birthday can get wired in there and all sorts of things. So this is an energy stick. Now an energy stick has a switch on it. And when I put my hand across here, electricity is going through my hand. And if I put my hands on this way, electricity is going through my whole body. I do this with a group where we stand in a group and everyone holds hands and the light goes off, or goes on when we all connect. But when something goes wrong in our lives, it's like a block on the switch and then our brain doesn't work properly. And when we learn how to breathe deeply and focus on our blessings and lots of other strategies that I can share, we can get our brains working again. So that's it for this part of the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I will have some more coming in the next day.